The Olympics is all about unity and harmony. The idea is that sport rises above all else. But right now, it is deep in damage control mode as the countdown to the Winter Games picks up speed. The International Olympic Committee is once again asking the world to look away. Away from the US immigration agents at the Games, away from the Epstein files controversy that's cast a shadow on the LA Games prep, and desperately hope that once the Olympic flame is lit, all of this will quietly fade into the background. This time, the distractions are not abstract. They have names, they have evidence with paper trails, and they cut uncomfortably close to the Olympic power structure. The first flashpoint, the Epstein files, and the appearance of Cassie Wasserman. He is one of the most powerful figures in the Olympic ecosystem and the man charged with leading the Los Angeles 2028 campaign. Flirtatious emails from 2003 exchanged with Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime associate and alleged co-conspirator, are now out in public and impossible to ignore, even as Wasserman apologizes and says he regrets the tone of those messages. Now, Wasserman is not a side character in this story. He's the face of a future Olympics edition and the person expected to protect the brand's moral currency. At the center of this is, of course, newly appointed IOC President Kirsty Coventry, trying to project calm and a sense of disciplinary authority, trying to reframe the moment as just another blip or a speed bump on a very long and testy road.
I've not been in contact with Casey. The focus has fully been on Milano Cortina. I think anything that is distracting from these games is sad, right? But what is keeping my faith alive is that when that opening ceremony happens and those athletes start competing, suddenly the world remembers the magic and the spirit that the games have.
You could see the sense of hesitation there as Coventry is carefully choosing those words. The IOC calls it monitoring, watching, waiting for more clarity. Now, using time as a buffer to eventually let things all fall into place or die down on its own. It is a very familiar Olympic refrain, the belief that sport eventually will trump everything and drown out everything else. That controversies have expiry dates and that the opening ceremony works like that magical reset button. And then, of course, comes the second flashpoint, one that has moved from sealed files all the way to the city streets. Security, or rather, Big Brother watching. The presence of US immigration and customs enforcement agents in Italy. ICE at the Winter Games, the deployment has sparked anger and protests in Milan and a sharp political pushback in Italy.
From all the information that we have, and I believe the US authorities, as the other authorities, have made all the clarifications needed. So from our side, that's not for us to further comment on that part of the security.
The message from the IOC seems explicitly clear. Security is not their problem. The games must move on, move forward. And the spotlight should remain on the athletes alone. But let me step back here for a moment and show you what both these issues have. They have one common denominator. On one hand, the head of Los Angeles 2028, USA's pride and big project under the Trump regime, caught in the Epstein files, forcing the IOC into a very uncomfortable position of defense. On the other, Donald Trump's immigration officers operating on foreign soil, creating political friction, needless political friction. America trying to flex its power by moving loudly and with consequences that have impact far beyond its own borders. Now, the IOC may insist these are isolated matters, administrative concerns, distractions that will fade away and soon. But the pattern is hard to brush aside completely. When the United States moves, reacts, or responds to anything, the Olympic movement shifts with it. This is what unsettles the Olympic Committee. Not the protests, not the distractions, but the reality that the biggest player in the room is also the most complicated one. The Olympics may belong to the world here, but the United States wants to pull the strings of it all, turning global sporting events into a bit of a puppet show. So the big question tonight is this: how long before the world stops looking the other way?
The world doesn't fit in boxes, so why should your news? From battlefields to negotiation tables, from internet outrage to real-world injustice. The conversations everyone is having and the ones they're avoiding. It's the same show, but this new year, Firstpost America gets a new look. I'm Kerry Johnston, and this is Firstpost America.